This is the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 7 and verse 9. And when he was looked at the last gasp, he said, Thou, like a fury, takest us out of this present life. But the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. Shalom, shalom, Akim. Before I begin, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Akakodash. All right, I want to give double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who rule and teach well. Peace and salutations unto the elect. All right, today's today's lesson is based off this story, this story that it's a heavy story. It's definitely a heavy story. The book, or the story of the seven brothers and the mother. Okay, so it's a pretty long read, so I'm not gonna read all of it, but I will read most of it, Lord willing, or we'll see where the Spirit takes us. But this is the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 7 and verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. Okay, so these 7 brothers, along with the mother, were all, gonna be forced to eat pork. Okay, that wine's flesh that it's speaking of is the pork. Okay, so these brothers were gonna be forced to eat pork. Okay, so that's obviously it's a commandment against the Lord. Okay, the Lord told us not to eat of that flesh, but these people, these brothers and the woman, was forced to eat. And it says, but one of them that spake first said, Thus, why wouldest thou ask, learn of us? We are ready to die rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers. Okay. Then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot. Now, these people, okay, these people are going to force us to take that sea hip, okay? And that's why I want to get into it, because this reminds me of the torments that we may face, that we may have to endure, okay? Because the Heavenly Father, he's going to test his prophets, he's going to test his servants to see if they're really about him or not, And one of those main tests, or the ultimate test, is that micro sea hip. Okay, it says, forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the utmost parts of his body, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. And when he was thus maimed in all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire, and to be fried in a pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space disappeared, or dispersed, they exhorted one again with the mother to die manfully, saying thus, The Lord Yahweh power looked upon us, and in truth hath comforted us, as Moses in his song, which witnessed to their faces, declaring, saying, and he will be comforted in his servants. Okay, so these Akim, or these brothers, had to endure. Each of them had to endure a harsh, painful death, as we'll read going on. But it said that you will be comforted. Okay, We're going to be comforted in these times of troubles, okay, in these times of tribulations. This is the book of Matthew 10:28. Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both body, so like both soul and body in hell. Excuse me. Okay, so, we are not to fear these men. Okay, these men are just a bunch of they're just that mere men. You don't have to fear mere men. Okay, fear the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Now does that mean that you go out and you try to fight everyone because you don't fear them? Of course not. Just because you don't fear somebody don't mean you got to go out and be disrespectful. Okay. But we will not fear these men when it comes to those times of trouble, when the Lord will ultimately, guide us to our salvation. Because that's what we need. We need the Lord to guide us through our salvation. It says, verse 7, 2 Maccabees 7:7. For when the first was dead after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had pulled off his skin off his head with the hair, they asked him, Wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body? Right, so they peeled the skin off, they scalped them. Okay, they scalped them, and they cut his hair, they scalped him. Okay, and they're telling him, are you gonna eat this flesh or not? Are you gonna eat this or not? And if the answer is yes, they're gonna punish his ass. They're gonna cut every part of his body. And here's what he said. But he answered in his own language and said, No. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did. Right, so he said, no, fuck out of here. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna eat this. I'm gonna follow the laws of the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Because ultimately he understood that the Lord is in control of everything. He probably ain't even feel the pain, the Lord works in ways men cannot comprehend. Okay, it says, and when he was at the last gap, he said, Thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws, unto everlasting life. Right? That's what I started with, because ultimately, if we give faith unto death, if we show the Lord favor unto death, he will show us the same. Barak Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, it's 11:44. Call Holo Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay, it's the time right now just hit 11:44 a.m. Okay, that's beautiful. All right, it says, let me grab this. Okay, and Salakia, if I'm reading a little fast, I am a little short on time, midterms and whatnot, but, this is the book of Revelations 2:10. Fear not none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Don't mean actual 10 days. It can be, it's just a representation of amount of days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Right. Okay, so these 7 brothers through the reincarnation, they're going to have them 7 crowns of life, because these souls are back in bodies. Okay, because the souls never die. Okay, so these same souls that the Lord had, these are back in bodies. And they're going to act out the same way. Okay, it says, after him was a third made a mocking stock, and when he was required, he put out his tongue, and that right so, holding forth his hands manfully. So he just stuck out his tongue, like, do it already. You don't even got to ask me. And he said courageously, These I had from heaven, for his laws I despised them. And from him I hope to receive them again. Insomuch that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains. Now when this man was also dead also, When, Salakia, now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. Okay, so they're just killing them, without any remorse. Killing them in the most painful ways they could have possibly went out. Imagine getting scalped, man. Imagine having your tongue cut off. These aren't just fast, quick deaths. Okay? And like I said, the Lord may have had it that they didn't even feel none of the pain. You don't know how the Lord operates. So in those latter days, you might not even feel the pain. You're not even gonna, the words are just gonna come out you. The Spirit of the Lord is just gonna be in you. Okay, real quick, I have another precept. Okay. All right. Because the Lord told us not to think what we were gonna say in those days. Slack, you bear with me. Roughly paraphrasing. Let me see if here it is. It says Matthew 10:19. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in the same hour what ye shall speak. Okay. So the Spirit of the Lord is just gonna be on you to just, the Lord is just gonna talk through you, man. Okay, but back to the story. It says, so when he was ready to die, he said, thus it is good, being put to death by men, to look for hope from Yahweh, to be raised up by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. Afterward they brought the fifth also, and mangled him. Then looked he unto the king, and said, Thou hast power over men, thou art corruptible. What thou doest, what thou wilt. Ye think not that our nation is forsaken of the Lord. So our nation is not forsaken of the Lord. Okay? It says, but abide a while, and behold his great power, how he will torment thee and thy seed. Okay? So all you people who did what you did to the Israelites, to the men of the Lord, you people are going to be tormented by the Lord, man. You may have power over men, but the Lord has power over everything, including the elements, including everything. After him also they brought the sixth, who being ready to die said, Be not deceived without cause, for we suffer these things for ourselves, having sinned against our power. Therefore marvelous things are done unto us. Right, man. So this sixth one was saying, hey, whatever's coming my way, we deserve it anyways. Why not suffer for the Lord? That's how we got to move. That's how we got to move. That's how we got to think. Because, we are in a guilty sense, but at the same time, we understand that the Lord is giving us this grace period. So, that'll make you just push harder. When you're scared, when you're fearful, that'll make you, when you have a healthy fear of the Lord, that'll make you push harder. That'll make you watch more videos. That'll make you make more videos. Okay? But think not thou that takest in hand to strive against Yahweh, that thou shalt escape unpunished. But the mother was marvelous above all, and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons slain with the space of 1 day, she bare it with a good courage, because of the hope that she had in the Lord. And you'll ask any mother, and they'll tell you the most painful thing they can go through is a child's death. And this mother went through 7 in the same hour, all gruesome, and she took it cheerfully. Okay? She took it cheerfully. She said, Call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, man. So it says, Yea, she exhorted every one of them in her own language, filled with courageous spirits, and stirred up her womanish thoughts with a manly stomach, and said unto them, I cannot tell how ye came into my womb, for I neither gave ye breath nor life, neither was I that formed the members of every one of you. But doubtless the Creator of the world, who formed the generations of man, and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again, as ye now regard not your own selves for his laws' sakes. Right, and that's what we're doing. Okay? That's what we're doing. We're not disregarding the Lord's laws. Okay, we're doing our best to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of our abilities, and doing anything to please the Lord. All right, it says, now Antiochus, thinking himself despised, and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, whilst the youngest was yet alive, did not only exhort him by words, but also assured him with oaths that he would make him both a rich and a happy man if he would turn from the laws of his fathers, and that also he would take him for his friend and trust him with affairs. But when the young man would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life. Right, so the king Antiochus tried to bribe the youngest, saying, look, if you sin this one time, I'll make you the richest man possible. Okay, and he said nah. Okay, the scriptures speak on what benefit, or what does it profit a man if he sell his soul and gain the whole world? Okay, it says, and when he exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son. When she bound herself towards him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country on this manner, O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months in thy womb, and gave thee such 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up unto this age, and endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth, and all that is therein, and consider that our power made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren. While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandments, but I will obey the commandment of the laws that was given unto our father by Moses. Okay, so, even the youngest was like, look, I ain't gonna follow the king's laws, man. That's some powerful stuff. It says, but thou that hast been the author of all mischiefs against the Hebrews shall not escape the hands of Yahweh. And the scriptures say it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power. All right, it says, and through the living Lord be angry with us a little while, for our chastening and correction ye shall be at one again with his servants. Be thou, O godless man, and of all other most wicked, but be not lifted up without a cause, nor puffed up with uncertain hopes, lifting up thy hand against the servants of Yahweh, for thou hast not yet escaped the judgment of the Almighty, who seeth all things. Okay, so if you're a servant of the Lord is gonna judge these other people. Okay. It says, for our brethren who now have suffered a short pain are dead under Yahweh's covenant of everlasting life. But thou, through the judgment of power, shalt receive just punishment for thy pride. But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching Yahweh that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that thou by by torments and plagues may confess that he alone is Yahweh. Okay. So the Lord is going to have mercy upon us. Okay. Just like he had mercy upon these 7 brothers who are willing to die for his word. That's why brothers say to know what you're a part of, man. Because you may have to be in the same spirit as one of these 7 brothers. Or you will have to be in that same spirit. Okay, it says, and that in me and my brethren the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon our nation, may cease. Then the kings, being enraged, handled him worse than all the rest, and took it grievously that he was mocked. So this man died undefiled, and put his whole trust in the Lord. Last of all, after the sons, the mother died. Least let this be enough now to have spoken concerns the idolatries, feast of the extreme tortures. So we have to be in the same spirit, Akim. Okay, of being able to die for the Lord. Being able to do what you got to do for the Lord, man. These 7 brothers and his mother was a very courageous act. And that's the same spirit that the Lord wants to find us in. So, Lord willing was edifying. Lord willing was uplifting. Like I said, I'm a little short in time. So I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. Shalom.